Every action you believe springs from your will is but a link in a chain forged long before your birth. Avicenna. Imagine for a moment that every choice you've ever made, every desire you've ever felt, was predetermined. Picture yourself deciding between coffee or tea this morning. You felt the freedom of choice, didn't you? But what if your brain had already determined your selection seconds before you became aware of your decision? 1,000 years ago, the Persian philosopher Avicenna proposed a disturbing truth. In a universe governed by causality, every effect has its cause, including your thoughts. What feels like freedom might be the most sophisticated illusion. Your genetics, upbringing, past experiences, and countless unconscious factors silently orchestrating what you perceive as choice. Does this thought disturb you? Do you feel an instinctive resistance rising within? That very resistance, that emotional recoil, was it freely chosen or merely another predetermined reaction? The soul imagines itself free, yet every thought follows necessarily from the one before it, like beads on an infinite string. This was Avicenna's radical insight, centuries before modern neuroscience would confirm it. Modern experiments reveal we become aware of our decisions only after our brains have made them. Your consciousness is merely informed of choices, not their author. Yet we cling desperately to the belief in our freedom. Why? Because without it, who are we? If our thoughts and desires are not our own, what remains of our identity? Avicenna's determinism stems from his understanding of necessary existence. If God is the necessary existence, all else follows by necessity, including every thought in your mind. And if each cause necessarily produces its effect and has been caused itself, then the entire chain of events since the beginning of time has been inevitable, including this very moment. But this raises a profound question. If everything is predetermined, why does it feel like we're making choices? Why this elaborate illusion of freedom that permeates our every moment? The answer lies in what Avicenna called the estimative faculty, our mind's ability to perceive itself as the originator of actions, even when it's merely processing inevitable outcomes. Your consciousness is like a rider on a horse, believing they control the animal's path, unaware that the horse follows a route determined by forces neither can comprehend. Just as water flows downhill by necessity, Avicenna wrote, so too does the human will move inevitably toward what it perceives as good, driven by causes beyond its knowledge. Consider your deepest values and strongest desires. Did you choose them? Or did they arise from your genetics, upbringing, culture, and countless experiences you never controlled? Avicenna saw humans as part of the cosmic order, as bound by causality as the stars. Your feeling of choice is merely your consciousness witnessing, not creating your actions. Even when you deliberate between options, the very process of deliberation, which factors you consider important, which emotions arise, all follow necessarily from your prior mental state. This realization shatters our concept of moral responsibility. If no one truly chooses their actions, how can we blame or praise? The criminal and the saint were equally determined. But before you surrender to nihilism, consider this paradox. If determinism is true, your reaction to learning about determinism is also determined. Your very resistance was inevitable. Avicenna proposed the solution through his emanation theory, where divine necessity doesn't eliminate significance but establishes it. Your actions matter precisely because they are necessary links in the cosmic chain. What if freedom isn't the power to have done otherwise, but the ability to act according to your nature without external constraint? What if determinism and meaningful choice can coexist? The wise man, taught Avicenna, does not lament his determined nature, but aligns himself with necessity, finding freedom in understanding the causes that shape him. Through self-knowledge, you can observe the causal forces shaping your thoughts. This awareness doesn't break determinism, but it adds a new cause into the chain, your own understanding. Like chess pieces bound by rules yet capable of countless configurations, humans operate within causal constraints while expressing infinite complexity. The game is determined, yet endlessly creative. Avicenna, who was not just a philosopher, but a physician, understood that mind and body form one causal system. Your thoughts affect your brain, which affects your thoughts in an endless loop. This realization can be liberating. Your mistakes weren't freely chosen moral failures, but inevitable products of your past. Your achievements too, determined yet still yours. The soul that understands necessity, Avicenna wrote in his Book of Healing, is freed from the illusion of contingency and sees itself as part of the divine order, neither puppet nor sovereign. Perhaps true freedom isn't the impossible ability to escape causality, but the profound understanding of your place within it, seeing the forces that shape you without being defined by them. Modern neuroscience increasingly confirms Avicenna's intuition. Our conscious decisions are preceded by brain activity we don't control. Yet this knowledge itself becomes a new causal force in our mental lives. What if the ultimate freedom is embracing determinism? Recognizing the forces that shape you doesn't diminish your agency. It transforms it from an illusion into a conscious participation in causality. The stars move in their orbits by necessity, observed Avicenna. Yet in their determined paths, they create the most beautiful patterns in the heavens. So too with the human soul. Your determined actions still shape the world. Your predetermined thoughts still create meaning. The causal web doesn't diminish your significance. It establishes your essential connection to everything. Avicenna's famous flying man thought experiment reveals that even stripped of all sensation, you still perceive your existence. This self-awareness transcends determinism while existing within it. Through meditation and self-reflection, you can witness the determined nature of your thoughts without being enslaved by them. This witnessing consciousness introduces a new dimension to determinism. For Avicenna, the human intellect connects to the active intellect, a universal intelligence. Through this connection, determined beings can paradoxically transcend their limitations while remaining determined. How might society change if we truly understood determinism? Not by abandoning responsibility, but by transforming it, seeing wrongdoing as a product of causes we can address rather than freely chosen evil. How would you raise children differently if you saw them as determined beings, not with less guidance, but with greater awareness of how your influence shapes the causal forces that will determine their future choices? God's knowledge, Avicenna explained, encompasses all causes and effects. What appears as choice to us exists within divine necessity, not eliminating our significance, but establishing it within the cosmic order. The deterministic view invites radical self-compassion. Your flaws weren't freely chosen, but arose necessarily. This doesn't mean abandoning growth. It means understanding the true nature of transformation. The paradox deepens. Your response to determinism, whether despair or liberation, is itself determined. Yet knowing this becomes a new cause in your mental chain. potentially altering your predetermined path. Avicenna's determinism influenced centuries of thought, from medieval scholastics to Enlightenment philosophers. Even now, his insights anticipate the findings of neuroscience and physics about causality and consciousness. What if determinism doesn't diminish human dignity but elevates it? Your actions aren't random accidents, but necessary expressions of the entire universe's evolution, culminating in this moment. The soul has many faculties, Avicenna taught, yet remains one essence. Similarly, determinism has many expressions, yet constitutes one reality in which both causality and meaning coexist. When you truly understand determinism, every choice becomes simultaneously inevitable and profoundly yours, not because you could have done otherwise, but because no one else could have been you. Modern physics introduces quantum uncertainty. Does this restore free will, or merely show that determinism operates at levels we cannot perceive, as Avicenna might suggest about the apparent randomness in nature? The greatest irony: true liberation may come not from asserting free will, but from recognizing its illusion. In understanding your determined nature, you gain the only freedom possible: freedom from self-deception. The perfect human, in Avicenna's philosophy, is not one who breaks free from causality, but one who understands it so deeply that necessity and choice become indistinguishable in their harmony. What if instead of lamenting your determined nature, you embraced it with gratitude? Every cause that shaped you, painful or joyful, was necessary for you to exist exactly as you are in this moment. Perhaps your determined choices still express your essential nature. In countless possible worlds with different circumstances, something fundamental about you would remain, determined yet authentically yours. All existence emanates necessarily from the first cause, taught Avicenna. Yet in this necessity lies not constraint, but the fullest expression of the divine nature, and so too with human nature. Your consciousness, itself determined, creates meaning within determinism. Like a determined river carving its necessary path through a mountain, creating beauty precisely because it cannot flow otherwise. Your determined nature connects you to all who came before and all who will follow. You are a necessary moment in an unbroken chain, stretching from the beginning of time to its end. At the end of his life, Avicenna reportedly faced death with remarkable equanimity. Perhaps his understanding of necessity gave him not despair, but profound peace, seeing his life as it could only have been. The final paradox: through fully accepting your determined nature, something transcendent emerges, a witnessing awareness that, while itself determined, creates a new relationship with determinism. From the cosmic perspective, free will and determinism dissolve into a greater truth, that existence itself, with all its apparent contradictions, unfolds exactly as it must, yet remains endlessly wondrous. The truth, Avicenna might tell us today, is not that you lack freedom, but that you are freedom itself, the necessary expression of the universe becoming conscious of its own determined nature. Perhaps true wisdom lies not in resolving the paradox of determinism and choice, but in embracing it, living simultaneously as both the determined actor and the conscious witness of your own necessary journey. 1,000 years after Avicenna, we still struggle with the same profound question: are we free? Perhaps the answer isn't yes or no, but a transcendence of the question itself, into a deeper understanding of what it means to be human.